Hello, Year 6. This is the last sort of serious thing that we need to learn this term, and it is the perfect tense or the past perfect tense. So far you've learnt two tenses of verbs, the present tense, I am working or I work, and the past imperfect tense, I was working or I used to work. Now in Latin they went like this: laboro, laboras, laborat, laboramus, laboratis, laborant. I work, you work, he works. We work, you work, they work. And the past imperfect tense went like this: labora bam, labora bas, labora bat, labora bamus, labora batis, labora bant. I was working, you were working, he was working. We were working, you were working, they were working. Now we've done those before, and if you need to check them, they are all in the class resources which are in your Google Classroom. Today we're going to learn the perfect tense. And the perfect tense describes an action completed in the past. And perfected in English can actually also mean completed. If, for example, if you're learning to dive, you might say, well, he's perfected the swallow and now he's going to move on to the aeroplane dive. I made that up, but you know what I mean. It can mean completed. Whilst you can imagine imperfect tense activities still going on in the past if you were transported there, events which happen in the past perfect tense wouldn't happen again. They are finished and done. So past perfect implies the action has been completed, wrapped up and finished. So for example, it was a lovely day, the sun was shining through the curtains, the smell of breakfast was wafting upstairs and Mum was making a noise in the bathroom. Suddenly Joe jumped out of bed, dashed along the corridor and hurried down to the kitchen. Here the scene setting, the sun, the wafting curtains and so on, is in the imperfect tense, because if you went back to Joe's bedroom, the sun would still be shining and the curtains would be wafting, the smell would be drifting from the kitchen. But the sudden activity of Joe leaping out of bed and running along the corridor wouldn't happen again, as it happened only that one time and is over. So you describe that as being in the past perfect tense. In English, the past perfect tense can be formed in three main ways. Easily, you can put ed on the end. He jumped, she skipped, they roared. Or you can put has and have. He has jumped, she has skipped, they have roared. Or you can put a did. He did jump, she did jump, they did roar. And you particularly use that if you're asking a question. Because if I wanted to say, ask somebody if something happened, I wouldn't say jumped John. I'd say, did John jump? So you often use that did form when you're asking a question in the past. The gardener mowed the lawn. Did the gardener mow the lawn? Now there are lots and lots of irregular ones in English which don't take the ed ending. Two examples here: she spoke, or she has spoken, or she did speak. We drove, we have driven, we did drive. All sorts of different variations in English for the past tense, but the really simplistic one is just ed on the end. Now the good news in Latin, and here's a bang, because a bang happens once and it's in the past. The good news that in Latin all the conjugations, all the different families of verbs, take the same perfect tense endings, and they are isti, it, imus, istis, errant. Isti, it, imus, istis, errant. And the alert amongst you will notice that some of the endings are the same as other person tenses. Third person singular always ends in a T. Mus is always the first person plural ending, we. Ent or unt or ant is always the third person plural ending. So there's some of those repeated again here. So all you do is put the perfect tense endings on the end of the verb stem. And there you are. Now another time, maybe not till year 7, I don't know, I will explain how we get the verb stem. But understand that the first conjugation verb stem is going to end in a V, so it's going to be amar vi, I loved, portar vit, he carried. The second conjugation is going to end in a U, monoisti, habuerant. Others just sometimes have the ending itself, legi, bibimus, and some put a different letter in the middle. So rego goes to rexit, mito goes to missit. But we needn't worry about all of those today, because today we're just going to focus on first conjugation verbs. So in order to do today's work, you're going to need the first conjugation verbs vocabulary. Now I've put a separate copy of that in your class resources today, if you haven't got it to hand. And then you're going to need the perfect tense endings. You can look back in these slides. Also, I've put a verb table in today's classroom and in resources. So examples: amar vi, I loved; vocar visti, you called; superar vit, he overcame; festinar vimus, we hurried; navigar vistis, you sailed; cantar verunt, they sang. So you could try these now. Spectar, I'll read them out, then you pause the video. Spectar vi, cantar visti, laborar vit, parar vimus, pugnar vistis, edificar verunt. Pause. Return. 1. I watched. 2. You sang. 3. He worked. 4. We prepared. 5. You, plural, fought. And 6. They built. And that's the end, really. The perfect tense is a tense which describes something which is completed in the past. Try the simple ed, he walked, ending first in English, unless it's an irregular. He speaked is not going to go well. And use the verb table in the classroom if you need it to help you with the quiz. So the quiz is quite straightforward. Go on and do that now. And that's the end.